Heavyweight boxing fans, what's the deal? All right, man. So I just want to talk about a few things about some upcoming under the radar prospect type of fights. Gentleman George Arias will be fighting in a few days here. October was his 14th against Mario Heredia. Now, you may look at this and say, oh, he's fighting some guy. Mario Heredia should be an easy win. He should improve to 9-0 fairly easy. But Heredia's a guy, if you look deep, man, I've seen him fight a few times. I actually seen him fight Andrei Fedosov. He got dropped a few times in that fight. But he put up a good effort, you know what I mean, in that fight. He actually, did he drop LaRon Mitchell? Don't quote me on that. Either he got dropped or he dropped Mitchell in that fight. But it was a competitive type of fight with LaRon Mitchell. The Jonathan Rice fights, those fights are on YouTube. Pretty entertaining type of fights. He picked up a victory against Ramon Olives. I did not see that fight. What was that, last month? And I did see some of his World Series of boxing fights. His body, he looks like a totally different fighter. I mean, he put on a lot of weight when he turned pro. But if you go on YouTube, there's a fight with him and Joseph Parker. They were going back and forth. Pretty entertaining fight. There were times where he was pressing Parker and Parker was pressing him. Going back and forth. He's a good combination puncher, decent hand speed. He's only 24 years old, man. It's almost like if he had a chance to really, just feast on a whole bunch of journeymen and build his resume up to, although he did lose a fight early in his career, but I'm not sure how he lost that. It says retired, so I'm not sure if it was an injury or what, or if he got beat. He rematched the guy and beat him in the first round, so I'm not sure if it was an injury or not. I haven't seen all his fights, you know what I mean, but I've seen a fair share of his fights as an amateur and some of these pro fights. And from what I've seen, like I'm saying, he has pretty good, decent skill, man. You know what I mean? He's one of them type of dudes, man, that you'll see on BoxRec where the record doesn't look impressive. But then when you actually watch him and break him down and say to yourself, like, damn, if he actually was in some pretty good shape, he can possibly be a threat. You know what I mean? Possibly. At least, fringe contender type of dude. But it's going to be an interesting fight. He loves to come forward. He will throw hands with you. He doesn't run away from guys. And Arias is a guy, he has a high motor. He's one of those high motor type guys, man, where it's just a constant grind. He's constantly trying to grind you down, throwing combinations. He can get on his back foot, move a little bit, and pop his jab areas. But good combination puncher, very energetic. It's going to be an interesting fight, man. I'm picking Arias to win the fight, but it's going to be an interesting fight. Please go look at Heredia. Watch the Parker fight. Watch him in his World Series of boxing fights. Again, he looks like a totally different guy, though, man, from his body weight. But, yeah, he had the little area here where he lost 1-2. He lost 4 in a row. Fedosov, Mitchell, and 2 to Rice. Rice isn't a bad fight. I know you look at the record and you say, what do you mean, Mr. Boxing? He was 5-2-1. He's not that bad either. Let me also talk about his upcoming fight, too, that he has coming up with one of the hottest prospects out there right now, Tony Yoka. Actually, both fights are going to take place on the same day. All right. I'm expecting Yoka to win this fight, but if it goes 6 rounds, the full 6, do not be surprised. He is very durable. He's a durable dude, man. He's not been stopped in any of his fights. He only has 10 fights. I know it's not a lot of fights, but if you actually watch him, man, he has pretty decent skills. He's a big guy. He's not some little guy that Yoka will be fighting. He is 6'5". I think he's like 240 or something like that. I forget his weight. Seem to be in pretty good shape. I watched Heredia fight on YouTube. A few other of his fights. He lost to Khan Sheehan. Sheehan's a prospect out there in the UK. I believe he's still training with the Furies. Khan Sheehan. But, yeah, man, it's going to be some interesting prospect fights coming up, man. So look forward to October 14th. I expect Yoka and Arias to pick up victories, but it's going to be very interesting to see these fights, man. Again, like I said, Rice is a guy, he has some good skill. He can use his jab. He can move a little bit. Seems durable. He hasn't been in there with elite competition. You know what I'm saying? You can look at his resume right here. So I'm not trying to gas him up like that. But what I will say is from what I've seen And for a guy to have a limited amount of fights, he seems pretty damn good, man. I'm not sure about his amateur career. I'm not going to lie about that. I'm trying to think if I ever heard that name before. When did he turn pro? I just know more about his last few fights, 2014. I want to say I remember his name from the amateurs, but I'm not sure, man. Don't quote me on that. But I did see the Heredia fights. And there was another fight on here I seen on YouTube. Was it the Sheehan fight? It was another fight, man. But from what I seen, the dude has some good skill, man, for a guy with only 10 fights. There's a lot there to build on. If you're a trainer looking at him and you wanted to, you know what I mean, try to take this 30-year-old guy and try to, you know, see what you can get out of him for the next few years, there's something there to build with, you know what I mean? So we'll see what happens October 14th, man. You guys let me think, comment section. I'm out.